What did he just say?
A 92% approval rating. We took that up from 38% from a certain previous administration that we won't mention.
Maybe 92% of Epstein supporters support you. Maybe 92% of women think you're gross. Maybe 92% of the world hates you. Or maybe you're just completely delusional.
The Trump administration is imploding as infighting has begun amongst cabinet members. Now, as you know, right now, Donald Trump is severely underwater, and he is desperate to try and change the perception of how he and his administration are doing. And right now, he is throwing out the wildest ideas, and that has caused the infighting. Now, this all started when Donald Trump floated out the idea of the 50-year mortgage, and he originally got that from his federal housing official, Bill Pulte. And the rest of the administration said, that is a dumb idea. Why are you giving it to him? And that is what kicked this all off. They are at odds right now, which is where this would all end up. Because Donald Trump runs everything with smoke and mirrors. If things are not actually going good, he is just going to lie. He is going to tell you that they're good, and he'll do anything to try and get things to be reversed. Whether it's a 50-year mortgage, or whether it's just telling people, heck, prices are down. Don't worry about it. We'll just gas our way through. We'll use a DoorDash report to show you that prices are down. This was inevitable, and I'm here for it.
Bounty hunters. That's where we're at. Trump is apparently going to hire bounty hunters to assist ICE when it comes to finding people for deportation, finding migrants. And my first thought was dog the bounty hunter, but I feel like it's going to be so much worse than that. It's going to be private companies that are signing these contracts, that are getting a list of 10,000 people to check on, to find and verify their home address and their place of employment, so ICE can just go in and swoop them up. I guess Trump is upset that he hasn't gotten anywhere near the 1 million people he wanted to deport per year. And I also feel like this is a way for them to still hire all those people that are willing to work for ICE, but couldn't pass a basic physical and couldn't get, there were so many people that were just out of shape and couldn't do the stuff they required that Pete Hegseth requires now. So they needed to find another way to be able to hire them. They'll just get together with a bunch of their terrible buddies and they're going to form a little LLC, get the government contract so they can still go out and try and just be the lowest grade of human being.
I am sick of people acting like it's normal that the president of the United States speaks like a fucking idiot all of the time.
Your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you go from 40 to 50 years, and what it means is you pay something less from 30 that some people...
She had to fact check him and say, actually, it's 30 to 50.
It's not like a big factor. It might help a little bit.
I love our economically illiterate president. It's not like it's a big factor. It actually is a massive factor. It's not just that you pay less per month. It's that you pay more over time. When you add 20 years to a loan, that gives it 20 more years to compound, 20 more years for the interest to grow. And that interest grows to such an extent that that extra $200 you're saving per month, I just don't think that's worth it.
Now, nobody knows what a magnet is. If you don't have a magnet, you don't make a car. Because of tariffs, I called. I said, listen, here's the story. You're going to play the magnet. I'm going to play the tariff on you. And for national security purposes, I raise the tariff.
You're going to play the magnet. I'm going to play the tariff on you. I feel like I'm getting dumber listening to this guy speak about how, international trade works.
In the 60 Minutes interview, Donald Trump said something no American president has said in over 3 decades, that the United States should start testing nuclear weapons again. And when the interviewer pressed him by saying in quotes, "Are you saying we're going to start detonating nukes?" end quote. Trump then goes on to say in quotes, "We're going to test nuclear weapons like other countries do," end quote. And then he added in quotes, "Russia's testing, China's testing, you just don't know about it," end quote. But that's not true. Just a few days earlier, the president's own nominee to lead U.S. Strategic Command, an admiral in charge of nuclear oversight, testified before Congress that neither Russia nor China are conducting nuclear explosive tests. The only country still doing that is North Korea. So if Trump follows through, it would mark the first U.S. nuclear detonation since 1992, shattering 30 years of restraint. It would violate the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, which 187 nations have signed to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. And here's the thing most people forget. The United States detonated more than 1,000 nuclear bombs between 1945 and 1992. And the radiation from those tests still contaminates parts of Nevada, Utah, and New Mexico to this day. And generations of downwinders, ranchers, miners, and native families have died from cancers linked to those experiments. Can we also please not forget that the government literally told us during that time, in quotes, it's safe to watch the mushroom clouds. I shit you not. That's actually what they said during that time. That's why you can't believe the government, you guys. Now, experts warn that if Trump moves forward, it could trigger a global arms race, giving nations like Iran or Pakistan a green light to do the same.
Holy crap. Some of these MAGAs might actually be starting to wake up. Have you been paying attention to what's going on over there in MAGA world? They have been losing their shit since last Tuesday when they got their asses kicked in every single election. And they're starting to realize that Donald Trump is their problem. And he went on Fox News last night and was interviewed by Laura Ingraham. Now, usually he goes on Fox and he doesn't get any difficult questions, obviously. But Laura Ingraham was asking him some pretty tough questions, and she wasn't taking his bullshit. And of course, if anytime he is faced with a difficult question, he doesn't know what to do with that, so he either lies. He can't exactly lash out and attack Laura Ingraham, who has been basically a sycophant, and, this is Fox News. So he doesn't want to attack them too much, but so he can't pull the same old, oh, this is fake news crap that he does anytime he gets a difficult question from virtually anyone else. But he was a disaster. And MAGA, they're all over social media today. Some of them are saying, have we been sold out? Were we conned? This is awful. Trump's selling us out. One of the things that they're pissed off about is that Trump is going to be allowing in 600,000 Chinese students to come to American universities, and they're pissed. They're really friggin' furious. They're also furious about this 50-year mortgage stuff. Anyway, I'm telling you, these MAGAs, they're starting to realize that they were conned. I don't know how many of them will ever admit it, but they're starting to ask questions, and that isn't good for Trump.
The government shutdown has now been resolved. The Senate voted on the government funding bill. They needed 60 votes to pass it. The vote was 60-40, enough to get it through the Senate. 52 Republicans voted in favor, and 8 Democrats voted in favor. So the bill is now advancing to the House of Representatives, and Speaker of the House, Johnson, has called back the House of Representatives to vote on the bill. The bill is expected to be voted on sometime this week, most likely tomorrow, on Wednesday. And it is expected to pass because they just need a simple majority in the House of Representatives to get it through. Now, once the House of Representatives passes the government funding bill, then it's going to advance to President Trump. And President Trump has backed this bill. Therefore, once he receives it, he's going to sign it. And ultimately, the government shutdown has now been resolved. All right, now, with that being said, what is in this government funding bill? Did the Republicans get what they wanted? Did the Democrats get what they wanted? Okay, here's what happened. There are 100 seats in the Senate. The Republicans control 53 of them. To pass a bill in the Senate, they need to get 60 votes. Therefore, even though the Republicans have the majority in the Senate, they still have to work with the Democrats to get the necessary 60 votes. And the Republicans and Democrats were clashing over the expiring Obamacare subsidies. They're going to expire on December 31st of this year. But to be fair, they were fighting over many things, but this was the biggest disagreement. This was their focus. Now, here's the agreement. The Senate Republicans promised the Democrats that they'll hold a vote on the Obamacare subsidies, whether to extend them or not. The deal was that they're going to take a vote on this by the second week of December. But I want to bring this to your attention. Just think about it. The agreement is that they're going to vote on this, but is it going to pass? Well, they're saying that the votes on extending the Obamacare subsidies that they're going to do it is expected to fail in the Senate. And that's why the Democratic Party, especially the leaders of the Democrats in the House and the Senate, are very upset with the 8 Democratic senators that voted with the Republicans to reopen the government. Now, I want to tell you this, and this is the crazy part where you're probably going to just want to shake your head in disgust. So you have to realize that this bill is just a temporary government funding bill that's going to keep the government funded until the end of January, so January 30th of next year. So that's about 2.5 months away, right? Now, I want you to think about that. They're going to vote on the extension of the Obamacare subsidies sometime in December, right? And that is expected to fail. So what do you think is going to happen? The Democrats are going to be pissed. And then what do you think is going to happen when January 30th rolls around? The Republicans and Democrats are going to be butting heads again, and then there's the real possibility of another government shutdown just 2.5 months from now. And then we got to go through all this drama again. That is the situation. It's expected to pass in the House very shortly, advance to President Trump. He's going to sign it, and then I'm going to win my bet. Please subscribe. Thank you for the support, and I wish you a very nice day. Take care.
Have you all heard of the salary cap? That's something some professional sports team leagues have. The NBA has it, the NFL has it, they have salary caps. Well, I want to show you how the salary cap is a dead giveaway about how the right-wing information ecosystem lies, propagandizes to the American people and betrays what they actually think and believe. I think we can all agree that billionaires like making money. Nobody's going to argue that billionaires are trying to lose money when they own a business. So let's look at sports teams. A billionaire buys a sports team with the goal of making more money. Last year, the average NFL revenue for each team was almost $700 million. That's a lot. They want to make money. How do they make money? They stop the free market and they share their revenue. The billionaires got together and decided the best thing for them, their self-interest, purely financially, was to end the free market and to share costs and revenue. That's a fact. Here's how the NFL hard salary cap works. They have a hard salary cap, meaning a team just can't spend more than around $300 million. So if I have $10 billion and own a team and you have $2 billion and own a team in a free market that wasn't sharing, and sharing is often conflated with socialism. Obviously with sports leagues, it's not socialist because it's not a government thing, though they have a governing body. It's socialist within that governing sphere. But this very idea that you'd share profits, you'd share burdens, that's what the right likes to call a socialist point of view. So what these billionaires decided was, listen, I have 10 billion, you have 2 billion. I could outspend you, but I'm really not going to make any more. My revenue doesn't really, maybe a playoff game or two more, a little more hype with the Super Bowl. Maybe my revenue is a bit higher, but it probably doesn't outweigh how much more I'm paying to outspend you. I don't want to spend more. I want to make as much as I can and spend as little as I can. So let's agree not to have a free market where I outspend you. In the NBA, they have a soft cap, meaning like, well, you can go over the salary cap and then we tax it. But that's not a tax for the U.S. government. That's a tax for our governing body. And we give it back to the other teams. Yeah, if you want to spend more and make more, that's fine. You're just going to have to share it. And the billionaires have decided that that's absolutely the best way to make the most money. Everybody wins when they cap the free market and share the cost and share the revenue. Well, that's the same thing with wages, with healthcare, with everything. They're lying to you.
Now that the House is coming back into session, probably tomorrow, are we finally going to get a vote on that discharge petition to release the full Epstein files? The answer is yes, but it's not going to happen immediately, and that's not because of any weird shenanigans. It's because there is a procedure that has to first play out, which I'm going to explain to you in this video. So first, as you know, there is this bipartisan push in the House to release the entire contents of the massive Epstein files, minus the names of the victims, of course. But because of the rules of the House, nothing can come to the House floor for a vote without the approval of the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. Well, Mike Johnson is opposed to this discharge petition. He says there's no need for it because there's already a House committee led by Republicans who's already looking into the Epstein case. Obviously, that's not good enough for most House members. So, in cases like this, there is a procedure for rank-and-file House members to go around the House Speaker's authority and get bills to the floor for a vote, whether the House Speaker likes it or not. That procedure happens through what's called a discharge petition. And in order to begin that process, the sponsors of the discharge petition need to first gather 218 signatures from sitting members of the House of Representatives. Now, that word sitting is going to become important in a second, and you'll see why. So back in September, Representatives Thomas Massie, a Republican from Kentucky, and Representative Ro Khanna, a Democrat from California, co-sponsored a discharge petition to force the entire Epstein file to be released. The effort really started to pick up steam, and it collected 217 signatures, which included all the Democrats and 4 Republicans. Obviously, Representative Massie, plus Representatives Mace of South Carolina, Boebert of Colorado, and Green of Georgia. Then, Speaker Mike Johnson set the entire House on recess on September 19th, and they've been there ever since. So the discharge petition stalled. Well, in the meantime, the state of Arizona elected a Democrat, Adelita Grijalva, in a special election. Representative-elect Grijalva has already said she will absolutely sign that discharge petition, making her name the 218th on the list. But she has not been sworn in, even though she was elected 7 weeks ago. And until she's sworn in, she is not considered a sitting member of Congress, so she cannot sign the discharge petition. Yet. Now, once the House comes back into session, likely tomorrow, to vote on that Senate deal to reopen the government, Speaker Johnson has promised that he will swear Grijalva in. And once she is a sitting member of Congress, she will sign that discharge petition. Okay, so when that happens, what comes next? Well, as long as none of those Republicans pull their names off the list, which they still could do, once Grijalva signs on and there are 218 signatures, the discharge petition has reached the magic number. And when that happens, those signatures are frozen into the record and they're put on the House calendar. Then there is a waiting period of 7 legislative days. That is a key number. It's not 7 calendar days, it's 7 legislative days, meaning days that the House is actually in session. After those 7 legislative days, either Representative Massie or Khanna will go to the House floor and give a speech letting the House Speaker know that they absolutely want to vote on their discharge petition. Then, according to the House rules, within another 2 legislative days, at a time or place designated by the Speaker, the motion will be called up onto the floor. Then there will be several debates and a couple of procedural votes. In theory, in the end, this discharge petition will pass because it already has 218 signatures, so you would assume those 218 sitting members of Congress would also vote yes. Now, Speaker Mike Johnson has said he is not going to stand in the way of the discharge petition going up for a vote if it reaches that 218 magic number. But here's the key part of this that everyone seems to be missing. Even if this discharge petition passes in the House, that does not mean we are going to immediately see these Epstein files. Why? Because that discharge petition would still have to probably get 60 votes in the Senate, and President Trump would have to sign it into law. And it is extremely unclear if either of those things are going to happen. If you want to read more about how the discharge procedure works, I'm going to email that out to you tonight in my Facts HQ email, so make sure you sign yourself up.
The Democrats had Republicans right where they wanted them, and they caved. This is just another day. Everyone knows that life is filled with disappointments, some worse than others. But just because it may be one of life's inevitabilities, that doesn't necessarily make it sting any less.
8 Senate Democrats broke away from the rest of the party last night, cutting a deal with Senate Republicans.
Wow, pretty wild to see all those chants from the No Kings protests finally take effect. What do we want? Healthcare! When do we want it? After a possible non-binding vote on some arbitrary date in the future! I'm sorry, but I cannot believe the Democrats caved. I mean, I can believe it, but I can't believe it. For the first time in seemingly forever, after sweeping multiple elections in multiple states, when numerous polls showed that Republicans were rightfully to blame for the government shutdown, a handful of Democratic senators essentially tapped on the glass and said, "Hey, we're weak. How do you like them apples?" Now, to be fair, with this deal, Democrats did get a reversal of the federal layoffs that happened during the shutdown, and they also got the government entirely funded.
Through the end of January.
Entirely funded for all of about 75 days. And then we're going to do this whole food assistance fight again in a few months. That means if food gets scarce enough in Puxatawney come February, this groundhog may see his shadow and the inside of a grill. What could have possibly been the logic here?
I understand that not all of my Democratic colleagues are satisfied with this agreement. But waiting another week or another month wouldn't deliver a better outcome.
There were two goals, both of which I support. One was standing up to Donald Trump. The other was getting some resolution on the ACA premium tax credit issue. The problem was the shutdown wasn't accomplishing either goals, and there was there was zero likelihood that it was going to.
Ain't that the inspirational spirit that we want from our elected officials? I hope Senator King brought that same level of hope and optimism to his wedding vows. I, Angus King, will love you from this day forward, for better or worse. Likely worse. I mean, there's zero likelihood that better will even be a remote possibility, so I'm not sure why we're even trying for it. Maybe we just skip to the part where we get drunk and open presents? There has to be a better answer for capitulating to a president who thrives on anyone who bends down to kiss the ring.
In terms of standing up to Donald Trump, the shutdown actually gave him more power, Exhibit A being what he's done with SNAP and SNAP benefits across the country. So standing up to Donald Trump didn't work. It actually gave him more power.
Yeah, if only we had some type of very recent blue wave election that would disprove this idea that standing up to Donald Trump wasn't working, but yeah, no, I can't think of anything. The reality is, for any naysayers out there who take Republicans at their word, might I present Exhibit A. Here is why it is a fool's errand to cave to Republicans. Remember that guarantee about a vote on ACA subsidies?
Senate Majority Leader John Thune promised that vote will happen by mid-December.
Sounds pretty great, huh? Unfortunately, Congress has two chambers, and the guy who helms the other one is, as they say in my neck of the woods, a total piece of shit.
So you're not committing to bringing up a bill that deals with the Obamacare subsidies before they expire?
I'm not committing to it or not committing to it. What I'm saying is that we do a deliberative process. That's the way this always works, and we have to have time to do that, and we will in a bipartisan fashion.
If something passes the Senate, it would only pass on a bipartisan basis. Yeah. Would you bring it up?
Well, the bill that's going to pass
to extend the subsidies, that later vote.
I can't commit to anything that hasn't even passed through the Senate yet.
What a not surprise. I mean, my God, I haven't seen such a disgusting display of Americans getting jerked around since I watched last season's White Lotus. And if you're looking for any further proof that this was the wrong move, just tune into that channel that's permanently broadcasting in your grandparents' orthopedist office.
It's very interesting, first of all, that it is now revealed, but most of us realized it was the Schumer shutdown. I mean, it was a Democratic shutdown. Even though the media, about 85% of the media was saying no, it was a Republican shutdown.
Remember, this all started with Democrat blackmail.
This is great news, I think, for the country.
Sunday night's Senate vote is only further exposing divisions among the Dems.
When you have given Fox News an opportunity to gloat all of 6 days after losing elections literally everywhere, including Georgia and Mississippi, you are not doing it right. The reality is Democrats are not currently in power because Americans don't have faith that their representatives are going to fight for them when it really matters. And the senators who just caved fully confirm that notion. They are giving ordinary responses in an extraordinary moment. We are in an era like never before, one where on a daily basis, Donald Trump and the Republicans take a look at our democracy and decide that that is where they like to take a giant shit. And while it is incredibly painful to know that millions of Americans are hurting due to the government shutdown, it is now inevitably going to get worse. The entire reason for Dems standing their ground in the first place was to protect the ACA, because thanks to the GOP, 24 million Americans are about to see their healthcare costs rise faster than Matt Gaetz' pants when he passes a Forever 21. And while Democrats had yet to achieve a deal on extending those ACA subsidies, their strategy was working. The majority of Americans blamed Trump and the Republicans for the shutdown, and this past Tuesday, Democrats won races all across the country, again, including Mississippi and Georgia, which is honestly as hard as... you get it. We had leverage, which even those paying the slightest bit of attention to politics over the last year would know is incredibly rare. And yet now, thanks to a handful of senators, that leverage is gone. With their capitulation, these Democrats just told Republicans and millions of voters that when the squeeze is on, the Dems will cry mercy first. Because as far as healthcare is concerned, all we've gotten with this deal is the promise of a vote in December to extend the ACA. And sure, Republicans will be forced to vote on whether they want premiums to soar, but that's very different than getting a guarantee that they wouldn't. One of the main reasons that Donald Trump is in the White House and the GOP has control over all three branches of government is because they know the Democrats will be the adults in the room. Once again, we have ensured Republicans that they won't have to face the consequences of their own ideology. And if Americans don't feel the true pain of what Republican governance feels like, they will never understand how bad their policies are for this country. And they are incredibly bad. Never before have we seen this level of corruption, where anyone can gain access to the president as long as they write a fat enough check during his crypto dinners. Never before have we seen this extreme weaponization of justice, where the Attorney General of the United States gets her retribution orders via social media posts from the president. And never before have we seen this level of contempt for people in need, where on the eve of 42 million Americans losing access to food assistance, the president of the United States throws a Great Gatsby-themed party. And look at him. Have you ever seen a sadder billionaire? Say what you want, but at least this guy knew how to put on a smile while destroying people's lives. Winning elections is about inspiring an electorate, standing up for your principles, and fighting for the very people who put you in office. And this capitulation from the Democrats does none of those. So while it might be fair to say
the shutdown actually gave him more power,
I think it's also fair to say you did too.